Pick up your NECA horror figures at Big Bad Toy Store at the link in the description.
Horror, kaiju, Dragon Ball, and more. Steven's Toy Reviews.
Hey there, collectors. It's going to be Steven here, and welcome to another NECA horror review, where today we're going to be taking a look at the ultimate 7-inch scale Nun Valak from the Conjuring. For the Nun here, this is going to be yet another entry in NECA's Conjuring lineup. We've had Annabelle, we've had Crooked Man, we also have retro cloth versions, including of the Nun, which I had, but is kind of in the back of my closet. I'm never touching that again because they hinted this would never happen. But now we have the Nun. That being said, this is a rather light release in terms of what we get here. Yes, it is going to have like fabric material here. We are going to have soft goods. But is that enough to make up for what is effectively only like 4 or 5 accessories compared to some Ultimate figures which come with a ton? I'm looking at you, Earl Sinclair. Let's take a look to see whether or not the Nun will be worth adding into your collection. The habit came pointed, or at least a little bit pointed, and I think it kind of looks funny compared to the promo pics and the way that the habit should look, so I'm going to leave it. So when we take a look at the Nun, she actually looks fine. I don't think there are really any issues to talk about, except for I do think that the habit looks a little bit different compared to the promo shots. It does seem a little bit smaller and a little bit more angular in comparison, but nevertheless, I do think that it looks fine. I will say, though, that on the final product, she does seem a bit more lifeless than the promotional pictures had. It seemed like there was a little bit more of a peachy coloration in the promo shots compared to the final product, but I mean, I think it looks fine. It's just kind of different, if that makes sense. What I do think is a bit of a downgrade is going to be on the paint apps for the face. Now, NECA is using the dot matrix, the printing style face paint apps, and it is going to be even more so true for the alternate head sculpt. The eyes are really, really dark on the proto for both of the heads, but on the faces for the final product, again, even more so on the alternate head sculpt we're going to take a look at, very much so it seems like the darker areas are light, and it doesn't really shine through all that well, if that makes any sense. But nevertheless, I do think what we do have, there's no sloppy application, everything is aligned properly, so for what we have, it's good, but it definitely could have been better. In terms of the quality for the stitching of the soft goods and so forth, there really isn't that much of an issue to talk about. It's not like there's a popped seam anywhere. The habit is stitched together in the back, and mine is not broken. I've actually tugged on it quite a little bit. No real issues to report there. When we do undress the Nun, which we will take a look at in a little bit, she is rather easy to put back together. There are a few Velcro strips. Sure, you could hear that. Everything is fine. There really isn't a whole lot to talk about, but what I can say is that there is a sculpted body underneath, similar to the Creep figures NECA's done for Creep Show. So you can see that there will be sculpted arms and formally legs, I guess you may say, very similar to the April O'Neil from the TMNT movies, but when it comes to the actual body in and of itself, there's not a lot to write home about, but I don't see why you would undress the Nun to begin with, except for when we talk about articulation, which we will talk about now. So in short, I mean, the Nun looks fine, looks like the character, that's all I have to say. The Nun! Her articulation after I'm done filming Chucky. Get out of here. Get your head out of here. All right, so her habit is actually going to be stitched together, so be careful of that. But where it is going to be connected up here, it actually has a bendy wire, and that's going to go down all the way to here. So you can get it into some fun poses. There's no bendy wire back here, which I wish they would have done. So when you have it on the head, you can get into some neat poses and stuff. So for the Nun as well, this bib is on Velcro. And guess what? Dun, 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 dun. Come on. Come on, Valak. Oh, so that's how you pop off the head. And look at this. It's all Velcro. I bet you didn't expect this to happen in the articulation section, did you? Getting all the way down to our skivvies here. All right, there we go. So, as you can see, here is the actual articulation scheme for the nun. Thankfully, the actual outfit does not really block the articulation too much. But here is how everything looks under the hood. So we do have the ball joint for where the head plugs in, which is fine, double access or barbell style. And then we don't really have any articulation here. We do have swivels where the arms plug in. As you can see, we spin them around. We can raise and lower them and get them on a T-pose. We do have double jointed elbows, and we do have swivels where those hinges will plug in. You saw me pop the hands off. The hands are going to have pegs where they plug in, and then they swivel with a hinge. Very good. You can see that we do have basically just a swivel here at the waist with a little bit of ball joint movement. I don't really know exactly what we have going on here because there is some pushback whenever I try to move it in a ball joint way, but it is what it is. The legs are going to use ball joints, but one of mine here is really, really tight, so just be careful with moving it. You don't really want to push anything there, right? So the nun can kick out about that far forward and that far back without any clothes on, and then can kick out to the side about that much. When it comes to the knee joints, we do have single hinge knees, which also do have swivels. For the ankles, we do have hinges that allow you to move forward and back, which also have ankle rockers in them. But of course, not everyone's going to have a nudie nun. So what articulation are we actually looking at? So let's go ahead and remove this. So once again, we do have the articulation scheme, and we just really need to have the range of movement. So the head really isn't restricted, which is a good thing. We can twist and turn. The arms, keep in mind, because of the cloak, we do have the stitching, right? And so if you really push beyond this, the stitching will start to pop. I did actually hear a little bit of a pop when I was moving it around before, and I didn't see where though. So just something to keep in mind. We do have the ability to move up, but once again, we do get a little bit tight as we move the arm up. It's going to be the same for both sides. When it comes to the elbows, pretty much no restricted movement. And then as well, we do have those swivels as I showed. So that is good to see. For the waist, once again, we can twist and turn from side to side. No issues. For the hips, still tight, but because of the way that the outfit, the uniform is made, the leg articulation is pretty much not restricted. So the only thing that will be restricted is the arms, but that is mostly going to be for getting a T-pose in place, which that is going to be the upper limit. But even then, you can kind of sort of circumvent that with being creative with your posing. See, look at that. So you just got to make sure you are using the joints correctly. And even though this is not a cloth figure, kind of treat it like that. And if you baby this, then the nun will baby you. Accessories, yeah, we kind of went pretty long on the looks department and the articulation, but we can really fly through the accessories. For the alternate head sculpt, the nun is going to be yelling, roaring, demon, Valak, ooh, ah. Like I said, the paint application around the eyes is supposed to be really dark. It's pretty thin here. It's pretty light. We do have the veins, and we do have the creepy looking teeth, but comparatively speaking, especially with the proto, yeah, it's pretty faded here, I would say. We do get an alternate set of hands, which are outstretched, like the nun is a Scooby-Doo monster kind of running after someone. We do get the cross. That's actually an accessory, the cross necklace. We do get a painting of the nun, which I honestly thought it was just the front part. This is what's going to be for the Warrens, You can put that in your spooky gallery alongside Annabelle. There is a back part, which I was kind of surprised about. And then there is going to be the orb, with the blood of Christ, right? We only get the cracked one. We don't get the full one, which, okay, I get that because it's a small one. But honestly, that's kind of about it. What I think would have been really cool is if we got like a generic closed eyes nun head sculpt, because we really could have just used this as a generic body for all of the different sisters in the movie. I think that would have been really cool. And that's really it for the accessories. Honestly, it's kind of light. Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on over to the size comparison. And you can see she is standing there, and you're probably asking yourself, how is she able to stand there? Well, Yeah, she is going to be in your 7-inch scale horror format, but what helps her stand is the last accessory, which I don't really consider, considering she does have some standing issues, but we talked about briefly. She does come with a little disc support stand. So buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. I mean, I guess inflation is a thing, but Crooked Man, which came with a lot more, was much, much better detailed. I recall getting him for about like $28 or so. Tomato with the Nun, right? And now we're not even, what was that, roughly 2020? We're how far along here and we're paying about $10 more? I mean, the figure is fine. There's really nothing inherently wrong with it, but considering the price, it's pretty steep compared to what is on the market. I don't think the figure is bad. I just think that there isn't a lot to offer, but then you have to ask yourself, what did the Nun have to offer to begin with? I guess I'll kick that back to you. I picked it up because I'm a horror fan, but if you are not a die-hard Nun fan, which, considering the popularity of these solo Nun movies, alongside the Conjuring universe, I'm sure there are a lot of. If you do get it, maybe try to get it for a deal.